This video was sponsored by the Magic Candle Company. Visit themagiccandlecompany.com and use offer code OFFHAND for 15% off of your purchase. And now on to the spooky stuff. From the very beginning, he's been there, in the shadows, pulling the strings, controlling everything, in secret. I've done a lot of research for a lot of videos, but this one's different. I've never delved this deep. I've never learned as much as I do now. Knowledge that is now my burden to tell you. Who are we talking about? Who is the one behind the scenes, the mastermind of the Dark Inferno, a master of chaos disguised as a kindly gentleman? I'm here today to share with you the true story of J. Thaddeus Toad, and the real-life historical inspiration of that notorious, infamous scene in Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. So, don't ask how I got this. You don't want to know. I've never really done this sort of research for a video before, but I wanted to go where no Imagineer had gone before, where no content creator dared dwell. Straight into the fiery pits of hell. That rhymed. Now, I've made a video before talking about religious imagery in the parks, but there is one ride scene in Mr. Toad's Wild Ride that is so heavy-handed with its religious themes, it stands out from all the others and is actually sort of a fan favorite because of it. At the start of the attraction, you board your buggy at Toad Hall and then proceed to go on a wild chase through the streets of London. You pass by various landmarks, the Tower of London, the docks, the Green Dragon Inn, all of this before winding up in jail after being found guilty, and eventually on your way to jail, you are hit by a train. Or rather, your buggy is, your character in the ride is hit by a train. They don't actually hit you with a locomotive in the attraction, don't worry. And it's then where one of the best scenes in any Disney attraction takes place. The temperature shoots up, the dark walls around you turn into stalactites and stalagmites. You cross under an archway that you later realize was the shape of a face into an underground cavern. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here, because you have just entered through the gates of hell at Disneyland. On the way through hell back to the unloading area, you pass by many different creatures. Namely, a judge, a green dragon, and a bunch of tiny little bouncy rubber red demons. But these tiny little red demons are, in a way, almost cute, and I wanted to figure out how we went from this to this. Okay, there's a bit of a difference, and I guess the only way to start when you're looking up the history of demons is where they came from. Old books. Like this one. Now, the origin of our word demon is actually Greek, daemon, and it doesn't mean an evil creature from under the earth who's gonna come get you in your dreams, no. Instead, it was a catch-all for a spirit or a divine power, and is actually the same root word for other words like divide and distribute. Later on in history, when the Romans and eventually the Christians took over the sort of Western world, they began seeing these statues and artistic representations of Greek gods and monsters like Zeus and the Cyclops and the Centaurs and Phil from Hercules as pagan spirits in league with the Christian devil or Satan. They saw it as some ancient religion meant to lead mankind astray, away from the Christian path. And what did the Greeks who worship these spirits call them? Daemons. Demons. But these little guys, are they truly evil, or are they just happy to see? Are they just bouncing around? As I stated earlier, this is the classical representation of a demon during like the Middle Ages, the Renaissance. But what if we go further back to actual biblical times? There we go, this is some Byzantine art, and this is starting to look more like our little red rubber friends. Note the wings and the claws. Sorry? You're gonna have to speak up or use subtitles, my guy. I cannot understand a word you're saying. Okay. Hold on, this is just an ad for the Magic Candle Company. Oh wait, I get it. This is an ad for the Magic Candle Company, right? You know, when I'm not researching ancient arcane lore through a book that I'm not supposed to have, given to me by a weird mouse thing that I don't know where it came from, I like to pretend like I'm at the Disney parks, my happy place, by smelling the candles from the Magic Candle Company. And if you're not into candles, don't worry, there are plenty of alternatives. Over this way. When the Magic Candle Company was founded 4,000 years ago by an ancient Sumerian king, he wanted people to be able to have the power to choose whether or not they wanted a candle, or room spray, or hand sanitizer, and whether or not it would be scented like the Polynesian, or the Haunted Mansion, or the most famous hotel at the time in ancient Sumeria, Disney's Contemporary Resort. Wow, it smells like the monorail's going through here now. Choose your favorite Disney park scents in their various states of matter for 15% off if you use offer code OFFHAND at checkout when you go to the Magic Candle Company. Again, that's offhand, just offhand, at checkout. Man, I sure would like to have cleaner hands. Foaming hand soap. What if I want my room to smell like the parks, but I don't want to light a candle? Perhaps I could interest you in a room spray. What if I want my bathtub to smell just like the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction? You're weird, but I respect it. Try the Enchanted Bath products. Is that enough? Did I do good? Remember everyone, that's offer code OFFHAND for 15% off of your purchase, and a very big thank you to the Magic Candle Company for sponsoring this video. Now, back to the desk. I got more of those books to read, and what did you want me to Google? Ooh, Doug? All right, let's figure it out. Oh, would you look at that? Ancient Mesopotamian evil spirits. Okay, I see the horns. That's something. You got any writing about them? Yeah, this just looks like an expired Pop-Tart. You got anything newer?
Talk about how he got his hooves.
Oh yeah, that would be prudent, wouldn't it? Okay, so in the Old Testament of the Bible, there is no physical description of the devil given. He's just sort of described as a guy who tests people, not really an evil person. Now, there are characters in the Old Testament that are nowadays more associated with the devil. They were never implied to be him in the original work, like the serpent or Lucifer, which is just a reference to the planet Venus, believe it or not. Okay, moving on to the New Testament, the devil is described as a lion, which... not really what we're looking for. Oh, but then we come to the book of Revelation, the sort of apocalyptic book at the very end that describes a battle in heaven between a dragon/serpent called the devil, or Satan, and the archangel Michael. This is it. This right here is the beginning of how we see, or how we depict the devil today, the dragon in Revelation. And not only is he mentioned in Revelation as Satan, but we also get a giant green dragon at the end of the scene in Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Check that one off the list. We were going to talk about the little devils first. We talked about the dragon. Now, if the green dragon at the end of the ride is Satan, then who is this guy at the beginning, this judge-looking man? We'll talk about that later. Okay, so up until the Middle Ages, demons and the devil were depicted as either humans or your everyday run-of-the-mill six-headed dragon. Okay, so that did give us the leathery wings and claws, but what about the horn? What about the pitchfork? What about these little guys? Remember earlier how we talked about early Christians incorporating other cultures' gods and goddesses and creatures into their own Christian mythology as sort of these weird demons that were meant to lead mankind astray to worship the wrong thing? Well, that goes a little further. We'll talk about the Greek god Pan for a second. This guy was the master of the wilderness. Unfortunately, according to Percy Jackson, he is dead. Pan was the Greek god of the wild, and he was also a satyr. Half man, half goat. Now take a look at this picture and tell me right now, does this look familiar? Horns, cloven hooves, a bearded man, that is the devil, except it's not, it's the Greek god Pan. He's in charge of the trees. Actually, is the dryads were in charge of the trees, but he was basically like the regional manager of the woods. And so eventually we start moving from whatever these are to this guy, which eventually brings us to the Renaissance. And what were they obsessed with in the Renaissance? Greek mythology. So, the devil started to look more and more like Pan. And somewhere over the hundreds and hundreds of years that followed, the Pan version of the devil and the very human Lucifer version of the devil sort of became one. Side note, this is also where the devil's famous pitchfork or trident most likely came from, Greek mythology. Hades, Lord of the Dead and King of the Underworld, a very similar figure to what we see in Satan, famously wields a bident or a two-pronged spear. Now, although Hades isn't evil at all, this probably ended up evolving into the trident, the more famous twin brother of the bident, that was wielded by his brother, the Lord of the Oceans, Poseidon. Although I think the devil's pitchfork wasn't for commanding the waves, it was more just for poking people really hard. Okay, so I got the pitchfork, I got the weird devil horns. Okay, but why are they red? Why is the devil symbolized in the color red? Is there a reason for that? Is it because it's the color of fire or evil? Oh, the book. Yeah, of course. All the answers are in here. The book says musicals, like stage productions? Weird. Have you ever heard the story of Faust? No, it's not biblical or anything, it's just some more devil fan fiction like Dante's Inferno. It's a German legend that was eventually adapted into a play about a German doctor named Dr. Faustus who makes a deal with the devil in order to obtain riches and women and happiness and good health, I suppose. But as part of this deal, he sells his soul to the devil, and when he dies, he gets sent to the fiery, brimstony pits of hell. The play, which was written in 1592 or 93, it's really unclear, was adapted multiple times into a bunch of different things, like operas and musicals and puppet shows. It was like a 14th century Into the Woods. If you wanted to see the legend of Dr. Faust, odds were a local troupe was putting on a production of it somewhere in some way. And to differentiate the devil from other characters, to make him stand out more to pop, to know he was the devil, they dressed him in red tights and a red cape. And like I said, this thing got really big. Everyone wanted to see Dr. Faust make that deal. And now the smooth-talking man dressed in red was the popular version of the devil. And finally, over the years, they all sort of fused into one sort of archetypal devil, this sort of guy who was eventually shrunk down, made a little bit more cute, and put into Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. The pitchfork, the horns, the color red, the evil sneer, all of that is just the result of thousands of years of storytelling. And it's how we go from this to this. So we've answered why the dragon is there at the end. We've answered why those little devils bouncing around look the way they do. But what about that guy? The guy laughing at us, the judge, as soon as we enter the hell scene. Who is he? Now I have two theories about this. The first one is gonna be a bit more historical. The second one is very much a self-contained theory I have just about the ride itself. There's no past knowledge required. The first option is that he is a judge of the underworld. He's obviously a judge. He's got his powdered wig on. He has his gavel. Who is the judge of the underworld? Well, it says here it is... There we are. The Greek king Minos. From like the legend of the Minotaur, from Minotaur fame, that guy. Now King Minos most likely existed in real life, but he also existed in Greek myth, where every year he would send 7 boys and 7 girls down into the labyrinth to be fed on by the Minotaur as sort of a way to appease him for the next year, before Theseus eventually put an end to all that noise. And after a few more adventures, Minos was eventually killed by being boiled alive in a bathtub. And after he was cooked, he was sent down to the underworld, and I guess Hades was either feeling a little lazy, he didn't want to do his job anymore, or the Lord of the Dead felt bad and just wanted to give Minos a job to do for the rest of eternity, and made him the judge of the underworld. Now this is the most literal interpretation I could think of, because he's literally a judge in the underworld. This could be the Greek king Minos, or, here's the second thing I was talking about, the theory that only has to do with the ride. This guy might just be this guy. They might be the same person, and the judge from before somehow followed us along the way to the prison and suffered the same fate that we did. I mean, think about it. He literally has the same voice and looks exactly the same, minus a few aesthetic changes here and there to his teeth and the colors that he wears. But this guy is that guy. Look at him. It's the same guy. So I guess this kind of brings our body count from Mr. Toad's Wild Ride up to 1. Is this the only Disney attraction where you take a human life? Yeah? Sorry about that one, man, but hey, at least you have a job, you know, at least you're not gonna get bored down here with all the little bouncy rubber devils. I think this is why Mr. Toad is such an interesting attraction. It's so unlike any of the other Disney rides in terms of mood it puts you in. It's a very silly, very funny ride with jokes everywhere, and then you die and go to hell. And it's still very much funny. It's comedic, it's lighthearted, it's cartoony, but the subject matter is very, very unique, and I think that's why it holds a very special place in the hearts of both Orlando and Anaheim Park visitors. Bring back Mr. Toad, by the way. So we now have our answers to what these creatures and little bouncy guys in the hell scene are, but we don't have the answer as to why. Because in the original Wind in the Willows movie, Mr. Toad doesn't die and go to hell. None of that is in the movie. That is a unique ending to the Disneyland attraction. Which Imagineer had his day ruined? Which Imagineer got so scared at Sunday service that he had to go in and change the ending of the story to make it so that you died? And you didn't go to the good place, you went to the worst place, the bad place, the cave one. Now, I did skim past a couple of facts, like how, like I said, Lucifer is a reference to the planet Venus, or how these creatures more specifically morphed from one to the other. But this isn't really a channel based around folklore and theology. I just sort of wanted to keep it Toad-centric for our first foray into the December videos. I promise they're not gonna all be as dark literally and figuratively as this one. Yeah, you're right. You know what? I did complete the video, but what are you talking about? What do you mean task? I'm not sure I follow.
You're just like the rest of them. There is no one to stop.
Where'd the subtitles go? You didn't have subtitles when you showed up on my doorstep 2 days ago, and you don't have subtitles now. What's up with that? I can't understand. I have to get closer, man. What are you saying? I don't understand a word you're saying. All right, buddy, you have some explaining to do. What do you mean?